Um, Ladies and gentlemen, members, before we proceed, let's reflect and have a moment of silence. Thank you. Good afternoon, members, officials. I'm not aware of any guests at this meeting. Can we ask the members of the committee to introduce themselves for the record, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Christopher Fry. I'm a member of this committee.
Goeiemiddag, voorsitter. My naam is Rachel van Vogel, 'n lid van hierdie staande komitee. Dankie.
Good afternoon. My name is Gladys Bagbab, member of the committee.
Good afternoon, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ayanda Pans.
Good afternoon, goeiemiddag. My name is Dan Plato.
Thank you, members. Ms. Jamche, are there any apologies?
We received an apology from member Glass, the EFF member, Chair.
Thank you very much. Let it so be recorded, please. Thank you. I would then like to ask the officials to introduce themselves, please.
Good afternoon, Chair. Nicholas Dias, Department of the Premier Legal Services.
Afternoon, Chair and members. I'm Sadiq Karim. I'm the Chief of Operations, Department of Health and Wellness.
Good afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Leila Najjar, Department of Health and Wellness, Clinical Service Improvement.
Afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Romeo. My surname is Maastorp. I'm the legal advisor to Provincial Parliament and assigned to this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Afternoon, Chair and members. My name is Ben Daza, Senior Procedural Advisor to the Standing Committee.
Afternoon, Chair. My name is Nomanda Jan, the Procedural Officer.
Thank you to all the officials for your attendance and your introduction. I will depart from the normal procedure because I want to do something which we normally do at the end of proceedings, but I would like to do so now, and that is to express my deep, deep gratitude to the officials for the excellent work they did throughout the process of the public hearings, all the logistics involved, and also for compiling this matrix. As you can see, it's been a mammoth task. So I really want to express my thanks to you, to one and all, for all the effort and the special attention that you gave to this to enable us to be here today. Members, also, I think I need to give you some background as to why we're meeting now. As you know, the process in the NCOP, except for the plenary, is just about done. We completed our public hearings on the 30th of October. I wrote to the chairperson of the NCOP on the 1st of November, requesting an extension to deliver the Western Cape's mandate, simply because and based on the volume of submissions that were received, and that it wasn't possible to actually give a comprehensive mandate or review the mandate or the documents with the timelines that we were given. To this day, I haven't had a response to that letter, despite numerous reminders, including 2 in writing. I just wanted to put that on the record. That is the one and only reason why the Western Cape's mandate was not heard by the NCOP as they gathered on the 14th and on the 17th. We are sticking to the dates that we have proposed in that letter, and those dates are today, the 24th, and Monday for the final mandate, which is the 27th. With that said, members and officials, I wish to remind you of the purpose of this meeting, and that is to consider and deliberate on the negotiating mandate of the National Health Insurance Bill, Bill 11B, of 2019, and it's an NCOP bill. Members, I also wish to mention that if we do not finish today, then obviously we'll have to proceed on Monday. But I have every hope that we will finish today. With all the formalities done, I would like to request members to give their input on the submissions received on the bill as contained. As you know, this was distributed electronically on the 14th of November. And I believe that everybody has had ample time, 10 days, which is about 60 pages a day, if you bothered to work through it. I also have here with me all the submissions that were received, these submissions with all the slips that we received from various attendants at the public hearings, with the matrix will obviously go to the NCOP on Monday. So the floor is yours, members. Who would like to comment on it? Member Windvogel, Member Fry?
Yeah, Chair. I don't want to comment on the bill itself, but the process. I think we do have legal experts here in the House. When there's a process and there's deadlines and there's time frames, you don't continue without getting permission. But I see we use our own powers and decide we are moving forward and do what we want to do according to our program. And it can't be right, Chair. But nevertheless, it's just my view, because you are saying there was no response from them. Therefore, you took the dates and I don't know who decided that you are going to continue with the sittings, even without the permission of the NCOP. It's just my view, Chair. I think perhaps I'm out of order, but for me, if there's guidelines, you guys are very perfect when it comes to guidelines and time frames. Now you are doing your own things because we are a country on our own, so we are doing the way we want to do it. It's not right and it can't be right. It's just a comment from my side, Chair.
Member Windvogel, I take your point. I am also not going to deliberate on this any further, because I think everything that we have followed is on record. And I think as far as I'm concerned, or the DA is concerned for that matter, this matter was followed to the T according to legal prescripts and advice that we have received. So, but I take your point. Member Fry?
Thank you, Chair. I wouldn't say that we're a country on our own, to be honest. But be that as it may, I want to focus on the submission by the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness. I just want to say that it is a very, very detailed and very intricate submission, and I wish to thank them for that. And they highlight the concerns with many of the clauses in the bill. So I'm not going to go through it page by page, because then we'll be here till 1:30 in the morning. But I just want to say thank you to the officials from the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness, and we should definitely take those sentiments and those concerns into consideration when we draft our final mandate. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Fry. Any other members that wish to comment on the bill? Member Barnes?
Chair, from my side, I think at this point in time, from point 1 up to 32, where we are closing here, I don't think there's anything that I can change, because it's clear inputs, whether supporting or rejecting or supporting with amendment. At this point in time, I don't think there's anything I can do with what's here, because it's coming as a submission. That's all I wanted to record. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Barnes. Anybody else, members? Member Plato?
Chairperson, from my side, lots of input, good input from the business sector to to community level. What I'm grappling with, or let me also say that good input from our government, from the Department of Health and Western Cape government, but also from the public in the Western Cape at large. Obviously, what I pick up in the documentation, there is force and there is against. Are we going to deal and grapple with that? One will have to see. One sentence, and with that sentence, I'm going to stop. What I'm grappling with is, and I wrote it down, and I said to myself, I will have to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. That I note the contents of all submissions. Although we could discuss the merits of all the submissions, as Member Fry have said, we will sit here till 1 o'clock tomorrow morning because it's a lot to go through. But I'm just worried about the creation of another monstrous entity in South Africa. I understand we need to look after the poorest of the poor. I understand we need to bring them into mainstream health sector and that sort of thing. We need to cater for them. My big fear with such a monstrous entity, procurement will happen at national level. There's no devolution of power again to provinces like we see it now, that powers will be taken away. If I'm looking at similar entities in South Africa around me, if I'm looking at the Escoms and I'm looking at the Denels and I'm looking at the post offices and I'm looking at other entities, they all fall flat. It is a corruptive kind of a entity, a cash cow entity for those that want to commit fraud and that sort of thing. My big fear is just that this health NHI entity will walking right into the same direction. And that for me is a big fear. How are we going to allay that fear? I don't know. But I think from a political level and a political point of view, one needs to say that. We want to service the poorest of the poor, but at the end of the day, will you get to the services of the poorest of the poor? That is what I'm grappling with in my mind, and I will have to express my concerns, and I will have to clearly express my fears in that respect. Other people will walk away with taking. We can see how we struggle even with a monstrous SASSA. People don't even get their payouts and that sort of thing. And here we create and will be party to the creation of another such similar entity. And one can foresee in one's mind what is going to happen. And that for me, I want my fear, my concerns to be noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Plato. Member Baku Vos.
Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity. I'm so worried about the response of Member Plato. You know, fraud is everywhere. Look in the Western Cape, how they milk the poor people through electricity. We pay a lot of money when it comes to the electricity. Those, let me put it that way, with VA, they milk poor people. Again, if we really care about poor people, let us not put, I don't even want to say if we really care about it. I want to say the DA doesn't care about poor people at all, because Member Plato was not going to say what he has said now. Fraud is everywhere. I don't want to mention things. Yes, there are mistakes that is being done by those entities he mentioned. But even here in the Western Cape, there are many things that is happening. Let us not hide behind the fraud or corruption. Let's support the bill openly if we care about our people. That's what I wanted to say.
Windvogel?
Thank you so much, Chair. Yeah, Chair, I think it's really a shame if we are saying we are not supporting this bill. We can use many and different excuses not to support this bill. I'm just making an example. As I'm sitting here, I'm a member of PAMED. I don't have medical aid. It's exhausted. I must pay my own medicine at the moment. But they are paying. It's nearly 7,000 a month that they deduct from my money. And now you are saying so. Now I must, if I want to be assisted, I must move back to the public sector for assistance. All of our, if your family member is in hospital, in a medical hospital, if the funds is exhausted, they send them back to public health care. But that's not the issue, Chair. I think this bill will help those most vulnerable people. They will. The most vulnerable people will benefit from this bill. It's a fund. It's not like the bill is going to because I think sometimes people get confused by saying that you are using the universal health coverage. This is only an instrument who's going to fund certain services. So for me, this bill will benefit the most vulnerable people, and I will support it. You look at the HIV. When HIV was implemented, they were saying it's not going to work. Today, we have a wonderful system when it comes to ARVs and HIV services. So there's one good thing, member, you are not speaking about member Plato. So there's a lot of other things that is working. Some are not working, but this thing, the NHI bill will work for the most vulnerable people. We must stop this thing, protecting as members of government, public servants, those rich, the middle class, protecting themselves and don't care about the poor people. Because what is going to happen, at least, is if Chris Barnard Hospital is registered with the NHI fund, the ordinary person in the street can also get access to that hospital, the best care. So we must really not be selfish. Think about ourselves. Because what is going to happen tomorrow, if my neighbor is hungry, he will come and steal from me. We must look at it in that perspective. Don't be selfish and think about you and your family. Because when you speak, it's like you're speaking because you want to protect yourself and your family and your constituency that you are representing. Chair, we must really support this bill. That's my input. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. Any more of the members who would like to say something? Member Fry and Member Buns?
Chair, I don't think that it's. Thank you very much, firstly. I don't think it's a question of whether we want the poor to access adequate healthcare. I think we believe in universal health coverage. But this bill seeks to centralize power and governance and legal compliance in the National Health Insurance Fund. And that is dangerous. And that is a dangerous concept to manage a complex system like national healthcare. To centralize it would be very dangerous. And I don't believe that this is the best way to fund or to deliver services to the poorest of the poor. We've already seen that the NHI pilot programs
Doing good. Very good. In Southern Cape,
some of them are not doing good. So I would not support the bill in its current form. Thank you.
Member Buns?
Thank you, Chairperson. I was deliberate earlier when I said that we are having submissions in front of us. And I think the public hearings had taken so much from us. We have traveled this province from the north to the south and west to the east. I think at this time, we should stop making it about us. Communities have spoken. If it means we are going to sit here up until tomorrow and read them one by one, we are getting paid to do that. Let's exercise what our communities have said and take it from there. And then I think we can do this political thing that we are trying now to bicker. Let's bicker on the view of what communities have said. I'll rather pause for now there. I'm ready and willing to leave even on Monday morning if it's going to be about that, because at the end of the day, we are here to represent what the communities have said, their choice. They must be heard at this point in time. We can do the politics later. I'm just raising that one for now, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Buds. Members, if I can just throw in my 10 cents worth. I think we've been busy, as you have said, we've been busy with this for a while. From the 4th of August, when Dr. Crisp presented to the committee, through all the public hearings. And we've had some very eloquent submissions. We've had some excellently well-motivated submissions. What I lack, or what I don't see, members, is I don't see a plan. And I don't see where the money is coming from. How can you not have a plan and you don't even know where the money is going to come from? That to me is a huge concern. I think it's common cause. It's common cause that universal healthcare is the way to go. That everybody in this country should benefit in the correct manner, in a fair manner. But I think a lot of thinking, in fact, a lot of more doing needs to go into this before actually it is implemented. Thank you. I will now invite the officials to give their inputs if they so wish. Advocate Marstorp, if you have any input, you are welcome to do so.
Thank you, Chairperson. You will know, Chairperson, that there's no specific legal question before me to which the committee may have expected a response or an opinion from my side. But I've been assigned to this committee in respect of this bill, and I've been part of the process, be it remote or be it actual like this. I have listened to the submissions. I have read plenty submissions. Just yesterday, I received a 600-page document of submissions. And I have consumed it. Because you see, Chairperson, in as much as there is no specific legal question before me, the submissions that I have familiarized myself with, in fact, raise legal issues. Further, in fact, and I think it's worth mentioning, it's worth repeating what you just said now, that in principle, there appears to be a consensus that coverage in respect of access to health and health services must be universal. It is the machinations, the operationalization of that from the submissions it appears, the bill raises questions. Everyone must get health services and access to health. That's not the conversation. It's not a class conversation. It's a machination conversation. And when I encounter, as I have done, certain legal red flags, then I cannot pass it by. And as I said earlier, no specific issue is before me. However, from what I have familiarized myself with, there appears to be, from the submissions, credible observations pertaining to legal concerns. And those observations are varied and without limiting myself necessarily, they range from how this bill, in relation to existing legislation, will fit in, and or whether this bill will raise conflict with existing legislation. That's a credible point that was raised, especially, for example, if one looks at how this bill envisages a centralized procurement mechanism, notwithstanding existing legislation of public preferential procurement. Notwithstanding. And the bill, with all its romantic goals, does not explain that krapperigheid, that disjuncture, if you like. I have also familiarized myself with the schedules of the Constitution, which, amongst other things, imparts on provinces certain responsibilities and competencies, which in turn caused a province to craft and pass legislation to give effect to those competences, some competences of which are concurrent with national. On the face of it, this bill, with all its romantic objectives, seem to undermine the existing constitutional role, imperative, and mandate of provinces. But there's another issue, Chairperson, and like I said, I'm just flagging what has been raised before in the submissions, and it pertains to the introductory remark you have made, Chairperson, in terms of timelines. Because you see, we are fortunate in this country that we have a vigilant, a diligent, and a conscientious constitutional court that guides us and nudges us on how to ensure that our lawmaking practice is comprehensive, is extensive, and inclusive and transparent. And I am sure that this committee because, by the way, this committee is the lawmaker of the province. I'm sure that this committee is familiar with Doctors for Life, with very recently Mogale, and the onus, the responsibility, the imperative it places on this province, this legislature, this lawmaking institution, what vests with us. And one should not lightly, Chairperson, one should not lightly regard those caveats, those terechtwysings from the Constitutional Court, so that we stick to timelines. And with respect, this committee realized that it needed more time. It needed more involvement from the public who will be impacted by this. By the way, Chairperson, when we talk about public involvement, we're not talking just about the person catching the bus outside or the tannie in the kopdoekie in Bishop Levers. The last time I checked, and I'm a citizen of this country, the last time I checked, corporate South Africa was part of the public who must be listened to. Tax-paying corporate South Africa is part of public submissions. There's no distinction to be drawn in terms of the value, the credibility, or the acceptance of submissions from an ordinary member of the public and a corporate member. So the issue that the committee raised with the NCOP as far as procedure, as far as extending of timelines is concerned, on my observation, having been part of this process, is a credible one. And this committee was legitimate in its request to request additional time. We have, I say we, the sector, has been shot down unceremoniously by the Constitutional Court for its failure / its inability to ensure a deep dive for the sake of informing the public about the bill and about the impact thereof on them. So we shouldn't be seen to rush through things because of self-orchestrated timelines. Secondly, on the issue of procedure, the fact that there was no response from one legislature to the formal request from another legislature for extension of timelines, the fact of no response is rude, is impolite, is dismissive. In fact, it didn't help this committee, this legislature of lawmakers, to ensure that its process is sufficiently extensive, sufficiently inclusive to make the outcome, as we want it to be, credible. So procedurally, and I am no procedural expert, procedurally, I already observe a measure of caution. Mr. Daza, Ms. Yamke, they are the procedural advisors to whom I listen. And I'm sure they can advise the committee much more extensively on those issues. Chairperson, from the 600-page document, I summarize my own 20-page document of legal issues. But I'm not going to inundate the committee with that. I'll just park with the following, with the observations I've made now, to say that on my observations from the public, who includes corporate South Africa, there seem to be credible legal red flags that militate against the bill. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Advocate Marcel. Mr. Diaz, would you like to respond or add?
No, Chair. I'll just, of course, to say that the submissions of the Western Cape government, that document contains legal and policy comments. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Dr. Karim?
Chair, I think the document contains all the concerns that the department has raised previously. So we don't have to go into it. Obviously, our issue is looking at the technical operationalization of it. The political aspect, that's the committee's business, so we won't comment on that. But I mean, concerns obviously around, and the document notes it in many places, the role of the provinces, for example, the role of the provincial departments of health, the role that we currently play in the ecosystem of health provision in the province. One of the key important aspects of that provision is, for example, the central hospitals and the importance that the central hospitals like Grootskeur, by that I mean Grootskeur Red Cross, and we actually include Grootskeur and Tygerberg, but we include the Red Cross as well, although technically by definition it's a tertiary hospital. But in our minds it functions as a central hospital. Those hospitals, those 3 hospitals alone make up 27% of our provincial budget alone. And if obviously the concern would be if both financial and from the health ecosystem, they play quite a vital role in the provision of services in the province. And the document does note recommendations from the WHO and many countries that there's a referral pathway, obviously from all the way from community-based services into the central hospitals, and that whole ecosystem needs to function as a single entity. It works well if it's a single entity. So obviously, then it is noted in the comments. So 27% of that budget alone are those 3 central hospitals, those 3 hospitals, and between Grootskeur and Tygerberg, they don't only provide tertiary hospital functions, they also provide secondary hospital functions, about 44%, what we call general specialist services. So those are obviously part of the ecosystem of how the health system operates. And as a provincial department of health, it's our mandate under the National Health Act to obviously plan, coordinate, manage all of that whole ecosystem. So how this would work if the central hospitals are then part of the National Department of Health and under the auspices, obviously that's going to be, I mean, that's the kind of detail that we commented on. I think secondly is perhaps the stewardship role that the Provincial Department of Health plays in the Western Cape. And we take that stewardship role quite seriously. And for us, that stewardship role includes the private sector. In fact, next week we are having another engagement. We have regular engagements with the private sector in the Western Cape province. So next week we've arranged an engagement with between at the moment about 70 people representing various parts of organizations in the private sector. And they've accepted the stewardship role that the Western Cape Department of Health plays over the services that they provide, because they, by their own acknowledgement, they can't play that themselves. So they've accepted our stewardship role. So obviously when we provide services, we already take into account the public and the private sector in the Western Cape province, and it's a role that we play, take quite seriously. I think the third issue probably is the District Health Management Office and the CUPs. Our CUP pilot, officially CUP pilot, is in Knysna-Bito. And that's why Ms. Najjar is with us, where she oversees that. Obviously, we work with the National Department of Health, and we like to think we work collaboratively with our colleagues in the National Department about what the objectives are of the CUP and what we're trying to achieve with the CUP pilot. And one of those, for example, would be to look at the relationship between the public and private, and to look at the ecosystem. But there are lots of detail in that CUP that needs to be unpacked, and I suppose that's why it's a pilot. Things like the service benefits package that needs to be clarified. What are the payment mechanisms? There's a lot of technical detail in the CUP pilot that we are needing to unpack. I think perhaps the fourth point is just the issue of the social determinants of health. For us, that's quite an important aspect, because we obviously see sometimes the downstream impact of that. And we've spoken in this committee many times about violence prevention, mental health. We've spoken in this committee about, we've had conversations about TB, a whole range of issues, of social issues that where we see, I guess, where our systems fail people in the province, and they either end up in our trauma units or they're victims of violent crime. And we've spoken about that as well. So for us, it's a holistic look at healthcare and healthcare provision from the department's perspective. And there are many technical issues, and the 636 pages, I think there are comments on a number of the technical aspects about the funding and the flows of money, and where the decision making lies for provision of services, which I think, as Member Fry commented as well, and I think you made the comment as well, has been centralized to the national department. So there are a lot of operational aspects of this that obviously would impact significantly on the way the Western Cape Department of Health and Wellness functions from a provision and planning and coordinating point of view of health services in the province. Thanks, Chair. I'll probably leave it there. I mean, lots of the comments are in the technical comments.
Thank you, Dr. Karim. Would you like to add any further comments, Ms. Jard?
Thank you, Chair. No, I think it's covered by my principal.
Thank you very much. Member Plato.
Yeah, Chair, this is a hefty one. Just one or two other pieces of comments from my side, and then I will stop there. Look, wrong methodology for me. Look, I think for what's important is we need to look at the system of improvement of current localized provincial-wide health services. And one of the points I wrote down before even listening to the other speakers is centralization is not always a good thing. This is to centralize something in the Western Cape in particular that is working, and to take that away. I think we need to improve what we have, because what we have currently, to a large extent, is good health services, but we need to make it better, much better than what it is. I am not convinced to centralize will give us a betterment of a service. And then the other thing is the taken away of provincial-wide health powers. The powers will be vested somewhere in Pretoria. And the fear is what will be the impact of the centralization of those powers. What will be the role of the provincial ministers countrywide and that sort of thing. The NHI document don't give enough information with regard to that, to allay our fears in that regard. And I want to leave it at that, to say that because of that, I'm unwilling to say I can support the bill in its entirety. There's good aspects in the bill. I'm not writing down or writing off all clauses and all conditions in the bill, but I think this is part of the key issues we need to bear in mind, and we need clarity of. And I think Advocate Marsdorp made a valid key point in saying if our public participation or deliberations around the bill, is it saturated? I don't think it is saturated. There's still many unanswered questions we need to look into. And maybe that is a key element we need to deliberate with the NCOP. I think they want to push the bill through before the elections. That is clear in my mind. That is what they want to do. I think member Vinsford, I listened to you and I did not interfere. So I expect you to wait and to leave me so that I can conclude what I want to say.
Members,
making a political
members, please.
Okay. So I am of the opinion we need to give the NCOP a clear message that our deliberation with the public, deliberation with stakeholders is not concluded, and they need to wait with the implementation of the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Plato. Member Barnes.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think my first two comments were trying to push the meeting to go on to the public hearings, but I'm taking note that it's actually not bearing fruit. Let's leave it. We are not going to do what I was suggesting. However, Chair, as I said, that was my idea of doing it. We have had a round of public hearings that we've done through the province. And after exhausting that, we went to a second round and we have exhausted that. And I think it's now a month or so later than we are still saying we are not ready. Then I think we're at a point now to say that it's not about the public anymore. We should not deceive anyone. Now we must make a political decision because what's here is not carrying water anymore. It doesn't matter. I was deliberate to say, let's go through so that we get to test the waters. What is the public saying? And when I say public, I speak about the private sector. I speak about the general auntie out there. We listen to different kinds of people with different views. For where I am seated, what I know, what the views were on both the different rounds, it was saying NHI must happen, but with amendments. I think where we are today, we were supposed to discuss the amendments. I think that is also coming from the side of legal, where legal is saying, I'm seeing a bit of red flags. Now we are going back to a process. How many times do we want to do public hearings? Or how many times do we want to come and sit here and deliberate on what communities and private sector have already said? Or are we afraid to go and say, this is the truth of the matter? How are we going to amend it? So, Chair, without me wasting any further time, I think we should rather now just go straight to the point and stop including the public where they have said and raised their voice and say we are now at a point openly of making a political decision and make the political decision. Where I am, Chair, I'm saying, and I'm proposing to this meeting that we should accept the public, the NHI bill, but with amendments as mandated by our communities from different sectors. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Barnes. Members, we will now proceed to a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill. And I wish to remind you that since this is a national legislation, our committee cannot make changes to the bill, but it can make amendments or suggest amendments. Only the NCOP Select Committee can make those changes. So with that, I will take you through the bill, clause by clause. And if you could please indicate whether you have any amendments that you wish to propose. We will start with Chapter 1, the purpose of the Act and the application. There is Clause 2, the purpose of the Act. Any comments on that? Any input on that? We go to Clause 3, application of the Act. That is on page 8 of the bill, if you have the bill in front of you. If there's none, we move on to Chapter 2, access to healthcare services, population coverage. We have Clause 4 there. Clause 5, registration as users. Clause 6, right of users or rights of users. Clause 7, healthcare services coverage. Clause 8, cost coverage. If there's none, we'll move on to Chapter 3, the National Health Insurance Fund. Clause 9, establishment of the fund. Clause 10, functions of the fund. Clause 11, powers of the fund. We'll proceed to Chapter 4, board of the fund. The establishment of the board is dealt with in Clause 12. Clause 13 is constitution and composition of board. Clause 14, chairperson and deputy chairperson. Clause 15, functions and powers of the board. Clause 16, conduct and disclosure of interests. Clause 17, quorum, decisions and procedures. Clause 18, remuneration and reimbursement. Excuse me for one moment. Excuse me. We move on to Chapter 5, Chief Executive Officer. Clause 19 deals with the appointment of the Chief Executive Officer. Clause 20 deals with the responsibilities of the Chief Executive Officer. Clause 21, the relationship of the Chief Executive Officer with the Director General and Office of Health Standards Compliance. Clause 22, staff at executive management level. We move to Chapter 6, committees established by the board. Chapter 23, Clause 23, committees of the board. Clause 24, technical committees. Next is Chapter 7, advisory committees established by the Minister. Clause 25, benefits advisory committee. Chapter 26, healthcare benefits pricing committee. Sorry, I said chapter, it's clause 26. My apologies. Clause 27, stakeholder advisory committee. Clause 28, conduct and disclosure of interest. Clause 29, procedures and remuneration. We're still dealing with the advisory committees. Clause 30 is vacation of office. We then proceed to Chapter 8, general provisions applicable to operation of fund. Clause 31, the role of the minister. Stop me if I go too fast. Clause 32, the role of the department. Clause 33, the role of medical schemes. Clause 34, National Health Information System. Clause 35, purchasing of healthcare services. Clause 36, the role of District Health Management Office. Clause 37, contracting unit for primary healthcare. Clause 38, health products procurement unit. Clause 39, accreditation of service providers. Clause 30, information platform of fund. What did I say? My apologies. Clause 40, I repeat, my apologies, members. Clause 40, information platform of fund. Clause 41, payment of healthcare service providers. We move to Chapter 9, complaints and appeals. Clause 42, complaints. Clause 43, lodging of appeals. Clause 44 deals with the appeal tribunal. Clause 45 deals with the powers of the appeal tribunal. Clause 46 deals with the secretariat. Clause 47 procedure and remuneration. We move on to Chapter 10, Financial Matters. Clause 48, Sources of Funding. Clause 49, Chief Source of Income. Clause 50, Auditing. Clause 51, Annual Reports. We come to Chapter 11, Miscellaneous. Clause 52, Assignment of Duties and Delegation of Powers. Clause 53, Protection of Confidential Information. Clause 54, Offences and Penalties. Clause 55, Regulations. Clause 56, Directives. Clause 57, Transitional Arrangements. Clause 58, Repeal or Amendment of Laws. Clause 59, Short Title and Commencement. Members, those are the clauses of this bill. We're obviously not going to do the schedule. Are there any suggestions and comments or amendments that anybody wish to bring to our attention? If not, members, then the committee report has to be is submitted to you for adoption. And I read for the record, the Standing Committee on Health and Wellness, having considered the subject of the National Health Insurance Bill, Bill 11B 2019, NCOP, refer to it in terms of Standing Rule 217, confers on the Western Cape's delegation in the NCOP the authority to either support the bill or support the bill with proposed amendments, or not to support the bill, or to abstain from voting in the bill. Can I please get an indication? Member Fry?
Chair, I do not support the bill.
Not support. Any other members? Member Windvogel? Can I get a seconder for me?
Support the bill, Chair.
Thank you, Member Windvogel. I noticed. Can I get a seconder for Member Fry's proposal? Member Plato, thank you. Members, I also have to put on record that that I do not support the bill. Could I ask Member Windvogel, would you like to register a minority?
Yes, Chair.
Ms. Jamche, if we could record it as such that myself, Member Fry, and Member Plato are not in support of the bill, that Member Windvogel is in support of the bill, and that she would like to have her minority position registered. We'll just deal with some practicalities quickly. Members?
If that is the case, is going.
Sorry.
Actually, I was going to ask you, we shouldn't excuse ourselves at that point, but I think it's.
No, that's fine.
Okay, you could just read the bill and use them.
Okay, members, I read to you the committee report then as it will be presented. The report of the Standing Committee on Health and Wellness on the National Health Insurance Bill, B11B219 NCOP, dated 24th of November 2023, as follows. The Standing Committee on Health and Wellness, having considered the subject of the National Health Insurance Bill, Bill B11B 219 NCOP, referred to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 217, confers on the Western Cape delegation in the NCOP the authority to not support the bill. The minority view, in accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed their minority view to support the National Health Insurance Bill B11B 219 NCOP. Member Fry.
Chair, I move to adopt the report.
Thank you, Member Fry. It will be so adopted. Thank you, Member Plato. Members, with that done, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nomonde. Members, just before you leave, we will obviously have to convey our mandate to the NCOP. Monday. We're going to do it on Monday.
Online.
Yeah.
There's a refreshment.
Oh, there's some refreshments. Please help yourself to it. You don't have to go. You can have refreshments. Members, we have to, on Monday, just in a very brief online meeting, agree on our final mandate. I believe we cannot do it now. I was hoping we can do it now, but apparently not. So I will, what time on Monday?
It can be anytime.
9 o'clock. What time would suit you? No, it's 5 minutes. It's literally going to be 5 minutes online. Online. If you want to do it at 8 o'clock is fine with me. If you want to do it at, is 9 o'clock fine? Is that in order, members? Yeah. So it's basically Member Plato, Windvogel, Fry, and myself, and Member Klaas if he attends. Yeah. So.
But you love the presence of Member Bunsen talk.
Good. Thank you, members. Please help yourself to some of the refreshments. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Member Plato.